Tate, what did we just witness?
I think we witnessed history, Mark Titus. I am still just sitting here trying to get my bearings together as I think about the fact that Scott Drew, when you and I first started doing a podcast, it was in 2016, or and we had this conversation. We said, "Is Scott Drew a good coach?" We laugh, we joke, ha ha ha. And then you look at a time as it passes, and we get to 2021. Scott Drew wins a national championship. The Baylor Bears are your national champions, and how did we get here, Mark Titus, is the real question.
How this was I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. This was not a good basketball game. This was a dud. This was the most anticipated national title game. We kept saying, you said it since 2005 at least. I said forget 2005. This is more anticipated. These teams were supposed to play in December. They did not. They were supposed to play in Indianapolis. They did not. They've been the two best teams all season. I thought Gonzaga had been better for most of the season, and then Saturday night happens, and it made me rethink, like, oh my God, Baylor looks so much better than Gonzaga on Saturday. Does that mean anything? But at the same time, we've seen that before. In 2003, Kansas destroyed Marquette, and going into that title game, Kansas looked like they were better than Syracuse. If you go off of the Final Four performances, and Syracuse won that one. So I was going into this all over the place. That's what led to the anticipation. The fact that these two programs have been so good, or these two teams have been so good all season, that led to the anticipation. The two programs on similar arcs of like where they were 20 years ago, where they are now. It's all culminating in this moment. Both of them have to win this title to finally put the final stamp on it. And my God, I turned to you, Tate. It was 4-0. I need you to confirm this for the people at home. I turned to you 4-0 when Jalen Suggs got the charging foul. And I said, I think this one's over, because like the tone from the gate, I wasn't serious, but I also wasn't not serious, because the tone out of the gate was Baylor, for lack of a better term, punched him in the mouth. And we knew that was Baylor's only shot, not only shot. I'm going to walk that back. That was the blueprint for Baylor, was that Baylor has a tougher team. Baylor has a more veteran team. Baylor has like a team that they play better defense when they're on, right? Like there was that stretch when they had the COVID pause and they came back and they didn't play great defense, but Baylor at peak defense, that's how they win games, is they guard people. They are physical. They are junkyard dog mentalities. And I thought, all right, if you tell me that Baylor's going to win this game, that's how they're going to do it. Is they're just going to be super physical on the perimeter with Gonzaga. They're going to rough them up, and Gonzaga is going to like try to finesse their way to a win and just keep looking at the bench like, what the hell's happening? But I thought even in that scenario that I played out in my mind of how Baylor wins this, I thought it's a close game. I thought it was like a UCLA type game where it's like, and then Baylor makes a few plays down the stretch and they win by 5 or 6. I thought I thought a Baylor blowout was not impossible, but I am shocked. I am absolutely shocked at a Baylor blowout. I'm going to say that. I'm shocked.
I am shocked as well. And I think the reason that we're both shocked is because when you watch Gonzaga play coming into this game, even including the UCLA game, you saw such a beautiful textbook display of basketball, guys moving, guys cutting, there's never a stagnant moment. But what we saw tonight was when you take a bunch of basketball players and you throw them against a bunch of athletes, and those athletes also happen to be top tier basketball players, the physicality.
Charles, is this you? Is it Charles?
Yeah, this is Jimmy's and Joe's, folks. They had the Jimmies, they had the Joes, and I think if you really kind of break it down by the guards, look, we all know what Jalen Suggs is as a talent, but when you look at the three guards that Baylor had tonight, Baylor's defense in general, they're basically playing man, but they also have Gonzaga's offense is drive and kick, drive, kick, and cut. And when you're driving and trying to kick, and Davion Mitchell can close out and get there,
yeah,
it changes things for you. And then when they're also active enough, Gonzaga's looking over their shoulder the first 10 minutes of this game. They're worried about guys swatting passes away. They're worried about their shot getting blocked. They're rattled. They're mentally rattled. And Baylor, they had the perfect setting, for this type of upset, right? Because at the end of the day, Baylor has been probably, definitely on the same level as Gonzaga the entire year. They were both the undefeated teams. We joked about, what tier 1A, tier 1B. We had Andy Katz all year tell us, 1A, 1B. And the B just stood for Baylor. It didn't stand for anything else, or the Bears, whatever you want to say. And when you put these guys on the floor, they're playing with house money a little bit. Gonzaga, they have everything to lose in this game. Baylor has everything to win. Obviously, there's a lot of upside there, but that at the end of the day, I think they had the better guards tonight. You really look at it across the board. Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague outplayed, Suggs, Ayayi, and Imhard. And that was really, when we watch college basketball, we know it comes down to guard play. And that's what it was I saw. And then if you think the guards are going to kind of cancel each other out and it's going to come down to the big man, well, Drew Timme tonight was shown what it was like to play against guys who are not afraid to really go at you. And Drew Timme got shocked by the system a little bit. And that system was the Baylor Bear defense. And we always hear the trope defense wins championships. I know it's funny. I know you can roll your eyes at it, but Baylor came into this game with the dog mentality that said, we are going to let the world know who we are as a basketball program. They were probably going to be a team last year that's going to be in the Final Four, and now they're the national champions. And for a guy like Scott Drew to defend the Indiana Hoosier legacy of the 1976
Hoosiers
title
popping
team,
champagne.
man, what a great day for IU fans, and what a great day for Homer Drew. I'm sure he was pulling for this moment in time. I don't think he ever knew that his son would do this. And Scott Drew promised a national championship in 2003 when he went to Baylor.
That's
and
insane.
I'm sure people probably laughed at him and probably walked out and said, what an idiot. That was probably the moment in time.
Because he was. I want to say, like, you're still like, if you jump out of a plane without a parachute,
yeah,
and you like land, and you don't die,
Mhm.
and you wake up, and then everyone that was yelling, "What an idiot for doing that!" You can't then look at them and say, like, he was an idiot. That was stupid to say that, and yet he's right in the end. So who's the idiot now, I guess? But as a reminder, which you're going to be reminded a million times, I'm actually as I'm about to remind people where Baylor's program is, I'll do that first, and then I'll complete my thought, I suppose. Scott Drew takes over, Tate, as a reminder for the people.
2003. Yeah.
2003. A teammate murders another teammate, and the slain teammate was not on scholarship because Dave Bliss, the head coach at Baylor, was trying to get extra scholarships. That was the situation, and the way he had extra players on scholarship without using scholarships was he was paying for these players to go to school. That's an NCAA violation, obviously. So he was basically giving the guys cash, but they didn't really. I guess the other guy he was paying said he didn't know. Whatever. Point is, he was committing NCAA violations that if you don't factor in a player murdering another player, it's already a bad situation, Tate. It's already a situation that's like, this is if Scott Drew just inherited that alone, it's bad. And then you throw in the murder, and then the player that's murdered, Dave Bliss, then like the NCAA starts sniffing around, figuring out how wait a second, these scholarships don't add up. How did he get all this money? And Dave Bliss says he was dealing drugs about a player that had been, that was the situation that Scott Drew stepped into. So you have like NCAA violations out the ass. You have like real life messed up stuff that like no program should ever have to deal with.
No human should ever have to deal with.
You put them together, and it's like the most heinous thing that's going on. And Scott Drew at his introductory press conference says, yeah, I'm still going to win a national title. And he does. And 18 years later, he does. And it's insane that he got to this point. And all the talk about like whether he's a good coach or not, like it's obviously I was doing a bit. Like I don't know. I would just do both sides of like this. It's funny that people argue over whether or not he is. And we've put that to rest. Scott Drew is definitively a good coach. The Baylor was definitively much better than Gonzaga tonight, to the point that, like you said, defense wins championship. You could have argued that Baylor's offense won tonight. Like,
I guess shooting 50% probably gets you a championship as well.
Could not miss. Going into this game, I thought Drew Timme was a matchup to watch insofar as I thought Drew Timme might be a matchup problem for Baylor. I thought once you see Drew Timme light up Evan Mobley, you're like, all right, Chamwa Chachua and Flo Thamba and Mark Vidal, they're not bad players by any stretch of the imagination. They can be good defenders, but like they're not Evan Mobley. And Timme cooked Evan Mobley, for God's sakes. Like, what chance are these Baylor's bigs
and
have?
Isaiah Mobley? Two NBA players. Really,
so I circled Drew Timme. I said, keep an eye on this guy. That like the guards might cancel each other out, but I don't know who's going to stop Drew Timme. As it turns out, you were to keep an eye on Drew Timme in this game, except you're to do it on the defensive end for Drew Timme because he was the one getting cooked. No, sir, it will be you that is getting cooked, is what Baylor said. Putting him in pick and rolls not all night. They had no answer. Gonzaga goes zone, which they barely done all season, to try to slow him down. It was as thorough of an ass kicking as I've ever seen in such a big anticipated game. Like there are more notable ones. There's Villanova smoking Oklahoma, obviously, just a few years ago. We've seen that wasn't a title game though. Like
I mean, Villanova in 2018, smokes, and then in 2009, Carolina smokes Michigan State. Like we've had
we've seen some dud national title games. I have never in my life been for a game so anticipated, been just sitting here like I cannot believe that this is happening. And even as all the talk in the second half is like, all right, they've cut it to 9. Gonzaga's cut it to 9. I honestly like never really felt like Gonzaga
was ever in the game.
I have said on the show before this season that Gonzaga, there's a calming presence about Gonzaga that I said if they're down 10, I think what I said was like even if they're down 10 with like 4 minutes left, I'm not panicking because they're so calm and cool and collected. They were not calm at any point in this game. The moment they're down 4-0 and Jalen Suggs picks up the charging foul, they had like a look in their eye of like, what have we walked into? And at no point were they, even when they cut it to 9, I was like, great, you cut it to 9. Like, I don't see how you cannot stop Baylor. So that's cool. You cut it to 9 and then snap of a finger, it's back to like 17. That it was as thorough of an ass kicking. If they play tomorrow, it reminded me of Loyola, Illinois. Like, yeah, it's technically an upset, but like at the same time, play that game tomorrow. Baylor's kicking their ass again.
Yeah, know? I'm still taking Baylor tomorrow. I'm still taking Baylor on Wednesday. I'm taking Baylor on Thursday. And at the end of the day, when you watch this Baylor team play, they had such a confidence about them. They had such a belief in who they were as a team tonight. And I think, I have to say this, I read a bunch of stuff this morning about Scott Drew and Mark Few and their friendship and how tonight was going to be tough for them. And apparently Scott Drew has been praying for Baylor every game or praying for Gonzaga every game this year. And I also figured out that while they've been in Indy, Scott Drew and Mark Few have been playing pickleball with each other. Mm-hmm. And it kind of reminded me, Titus, and this may be a stretch, but it reminded me of, hearing stories about Michael Jordan, playing golf with Danny Ainge.
Yeah. Yep.
It reminded me of this sort of gamesmanship, kind of that was going on behind the scenes. And Scott Drew, being able to play coy and act like, oh, shucks, Mark, your team is so historic. And, you guys are just so good. And, we're just happy to meet you in the title game. This is a Baylor team that looked like they've been looking at bulletin board material all year on Gonzaga. I think that they knew that this was a crash course. I think they expected to be in the title game. And I think that they hoped that Gonzaga was the other team on the other side, because I think that they had a lot to prove in the sense that, look, we've talked about it being a tier 1 Gonzaga, and then Baylor's right there, 1B, like we joked about.
Yeah.
They made the statement tonight. And I think in general, for just the audience at home, I mean, you expected Gonzaga to punch back at some point, but instead they had no counter move. They like the zone was the biggest counter that they threw at Baylor the entire night. And let's just be honest, Maceo Teague was unbelievable from the mid range. I think he had like 14 points like in the first half with 6 minutes to go, like 6 of 8 from the field. It looked unstoppable.
Mark Few is going to drill mid-range defense. Gonzaga is going to give up layups and threes every game next year because Mark Few is going to like study UCLA and Baylor tape and be like,
we got to,
the future is the mid-range. We have to stop mid-range. That's our weakness. That's our Achilles heel.
I mean, literally. And you watch Johnny Juzang and UCLA go insane against these guys. And, to be honest with you, I can only imagine the emotional high that you come off of after that UCLA game. If you are Gonzaga, to go from Jalen Suggs hitting that shot, you're celebrating like you won the title. And then, here we go. We're about to play the next day. And that's like, fair enough. It kind of reminded, you mentioned Illinois. It reminded me of Illinois winning the Big Ten championship on Lucas Oil Stadium, on that court that they're going to end up playing a national title, they think in their mind, but they already kind of won the national title. They just won the tournament against the quote unquote best conference the entire season. So it's hard to then get that, the whatever you need to get going. And mentally, Baylor, I'm telling you, man, this team, I've never seen a fire quite like that from the jump. And you said it 4-0. You and I, we turn heads and you say, I think it's over. And like, we kind of, like you said, we joke about these things.
We do that a lot, to be fair.
We do that a lot as a joke. And, but when you said it, it was like, I felt it as well. And look, the charge was a tough call on Suggs, but at the end of the day, he is a bad reach in on the other end. And that didn't matter. Suggs being in foul trouble really did not matter in this game.
You're right. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. I will say, like, the margin, I think, Matt, like, the game got away for, like, Suggs gets put on the bench, and Suggs was the one guy that seemed like he could hang with, like, Baylor's guards. Like, everyone else was getting swallowed alive. And you do
Kispert
wonder.
Couldn't put 2 dribbles on the floor. Yeah, right. On the court before.
You do wonder if Suggs doesn't get in foul trouble, what the game looks like. I'm by no means am I saying Gonzaga wins or whatever, but, like, I don't think it's maybe it's not as big of a bloodbath. Maybe it's not as big of a bloodbath if Mark Few calls timeout, which, you got to be upset about all this because Mark Few not calling timeout as his team is getting ran off the court in a big game, paired with Mark Few losing a national title game and maybe, having looking in the mirror tonight and saying, have I reached the peak of Gonzaga? Can I get this team over the hump? Maybe I should leave. If UNC doesn't pull the trigger on Hubert Davis, say maybe Mark Few. Mark Few has some Roy Williams vibes. Mark Few, this is Roy Williams to this is Roy Williams to Carolina in 03 is what it is.
Exactly. And it's funny because, they brought up, Jared Butler was the first player since 2003 to have 20 points and 7 or more assists, and the last guy to do that was Carmelo Anthony in a title game. And so we go back to 2003 in that sense. So they are theoretically Syracuse. And if you are going to put it in that sense, then Roy Williams is on the other side. Yeah.
Where's Tracy Wilson asking Mark Few about the Carolina job?
Yeah, and he's like, I don't give a damn about it. You know what I mean? And I think that's where we could have been, and North Carolina didn't shore up the situation. But in general, it reminded me of the 08 Kansas game a little bit in the Final Four. North Carolina gets down and it just compounds, and you can kind of see the guys get tight. You can see. We saw Nembhard one time drive to the basket. Ayayi is wide open, like 10 times out of 10. Any other day, Gonzaga's playing, Nembhard swings that over and we get a 3 and we settle things down. But instead, he's got his head down trying to drive to the basket, throws up a ridiculously bad shot. And it's all because of the panic. It's all because we're trying to make a hero play. We're trying to hit a home run. And all we really need is a base hit. All we really need is to get on the board and try to kind of get things rolling. And they never got there. Mark Few did his best. I will not put the blame on Mark Few. I will not say that, you can blame coaching here. I think if anything, you do the flip side of that and say, give kudos to the players on Baylor. They took this game personally. They were not going to let Drew Timme stroke his mustache and flex at them. My favorite moment of tonight was Maceo Teague in the second half. What should have been an and one, gets a tough layup on Timme and then flexes back at him. I've been waiting all year for someone to flex back at this guy. And I loved it was my guy from UNC Asheville, Maceo Teague. And Gonzaga, they are a great program. They will be back in a national title game again. I think if you're a Gonzaga fan, you don't need to worry, like, will we ever be back? You will obviously be back. But hopefully you come back next year, to be honest with you. That's what you would hope.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. I forget where I was going to go.
Well, I was going to say something. I was going to say it's just a lot of shock and awe right now, because when you look
at my Charles moment that I promised everyone 2 nights ago that I was going to start a thought and then not remember what I was going to say.
Well, we can Michael Scott it. Just start talking. We'll figure out where we're going to go. But I think in general, as you look at where the lay of the land is, I think this is more pro Baylor than it is negative Gonzaga.
That's exactly what I wanted to say, because I think there is a tendency, given that Gonzaga was the favorite in this game, given that Gonzaga was undefeated, and this was supposed to be in a lot of people's minds the crowning of Gonzaga. I mean, if we're talking about the arcs of both programs, they are very similar trajectories. But if we're being honest, Gonzaga has always been a step or two above Baylor, like in every path of this. You know what I mean? Like Gonzaga has been knocking at the door for longer. They have been to a national title. This was Baylor's first Final Four in 71 years. Gonzaga was 2 minutes away from a title 4 years ago. So if you're doing like who quote unquote deserved it as a program more, Gonzaga was the answer. And for that reason, I think all eyes were on Gonzaga in this game. And when Gonzaga is down like 19-4 or whatever it is out of the gate, there's a tendency, I'm sure, for people to be like, this team's frauds. Like they're frauds. They don't belong here. And I get it. And that's fair. Like you should not in any way like applaud Gonzaga for the effort they put forward tonight. But I think diminishing what Gonzaga accomplished this year and how good that team is, it takes away from what Baylor did. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if you say that Gonzaga is a fraud and that Gonzaga sucks and that Gonzaga can't hang with the big boys and that Gonzaga chokes and on and on and on, what you're basically saying is I'm not that impressed with what Baylor did tonight because they did it against a weak opponent. No, Gonzaga was what we thought they were. Baylor was just better. Baylor was just that good. And that is, I really feel like we saw 2 all-time teams playing tonight, Tate, and one of them kicked the other one's ass. And that's the bottom line to me. It's like, I everything I thought about Gonzaga all season was not wrong. What was wrong was that I thought they were better than Baylor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Gonzaga is still very good. Gonzaga And listen though, it's a failure of a season. Like there's make no mistake about it. Like Gonzaga was national title or bust. There's not a single person that actually has stake in the Gonzaga program that's like, they might say we have a lot to be happy about, but there's not a single person that's like, yeah, this is what we wanted. We wanted to like this is a successful season in our eyes. It's not. They wanted to win a national title. It was national title or bust, and they didn't do it. But at the same time, that team is a team. I will remember this Gonzaga team forever. In the same way you remember the 2015 Kentucky and the 91 UNLV and all these other ones we've been talking about during this run of like teams that have been undefeated before.
The 1957 Kansas team with Will Chamberlain. Yeah. I mean, there are teams and moments in time that you always remember. And I think you said it best. This is a Baylor Bears story. And I think that's what I want to focus on, because it's not about trying to RIP Gonzaga, LOL Gonzaga, meme Gonzaga, troll Gonzaga. It's about the fact that the Baylor Bears, and my mom texted me, this is a great point. We were talking about pecking orders and getting up the rung of the ladder, and Baylor had never made their first Final Four. So you assume, okay, Gonzaga made their first Final Four in 2017. Now they're back in the title game in 2021. They're going to get, like you said, we're going to check the box here. And now Baylor's going to lose, but they're going to come back in a couple years and they're going to get their national championship. But without the officials in 2010 working for Duke, Baylor gets to their first Final Four in 2010. And shout out to my mom for pointing that out. So Baylor had already gotten to that point before. Scott Drew had been knocking on the door.
Can I stop you there? Because it doesn't even work that way anyway. Like,
yeah.
I understand. I'm not saying you think that way, but like this idea that there is a pattern that you have to like get there first and get a taste, and then the next time you come, you can win it. Like Tony Bennett made his first Final Four 2 years ago and won the national title. You know what I mean? Like we've seen two coaches in a row now. The first time they've been there, they've won national titles. So I get what you're saying though. That is the line of thinking.
That is just what you assume in life, right? You have checkpoints, and you hit this checkpoint, you're going to get there. And I think if anything, what I was trying to say is that Scott Drew was not afraid of this stage and thought that this team should be on this stage and believed that last year they were a Final Four team. So it wasn't unfamiliar territory, to say the least. And I think the fact that they got there, the fact that they delivered, the fact that they played their best game, and the fact that we're going to look back on this Baylor team and let's just map it out. Their first loss is coming off COVID pause. So, that's a little iffy. Their second loss comes to Cade Cunningham, who will probably be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. So you can kind of take that loss and say, look,
Davion Mitchell.
Yeah.
Honestly, if we have like 2 more months of season, I think Davion Mitchell is going to be like the way he's just like he's a rocket shooting to the moon right now. And if there was more season to be played, like for God's sakes, the guy, was he even a first round pick like 2 months ago? I don't think so.
And now you're seeing him as a lottery guy. I mean, I've seen people, it does seem like Marcus Smart is the number 1, example that you're getting for Davion Mitchell. I think Davion Mitchell is, for as far as a college player, is definitely more individually skilled than Marcus Smart. And I'm not saying Marcus Smart now. Marcus Smart fully formed right now is one of the most skilled players you can see. But like in college,
Marcus Smart
Mitchell
couldn't shoot. He couldn't. He
was a junkyard dog, and that was kind of like his calling card. And in general, Davion Mitchell. How many times do we see Davion Mitchell get switched tonight, and Timmy come out on it, and he's like, "Oh, this is like an and one showcase. Like I'm about to cook this dude."
Yeah,
and that is kind of how they play, with just such an air of confidence. I know I keep saying that, but like, it does mean something, and it does show how much they believe in themselves. And those are their 2 losses, right? You come off a pause, off a global pandemic that's going on. So there's a little bit of an understanding there. And the other one in Allen Fieldhouse against Kansas, which is like one of the hardest places to play in the entire country, if not the hardest place to play in the entire country, and against Cade Cunningham, and everything else has been W's. You know what I mean? So, and if you look back at this tournament run, their 2 Final Four games are blowouts. Like they blow out Houston, they blow out Gonzaga, who's undefeated, dominated. So when we look back on this team, we have to. What my whole point is, let's reframe Baylor, right? Like that's where I want to be at. I want to reframe Baylor and show that they are historically great, even though we know that they are great. Well, like let's go ahead and say that they are historically great. What they did in this Final Four. And what they did at Gonzaga. This was supposed to be a crowning of Gonzaga for being historically great. And what Baylor did tonight on the flip side shows that this team will be remembered in that same aura, that same awe. And I think that to me is what I take away. And I think Scott Drew and these guys, I mean, I'm going to remember Mitchell, for being who he is and what he's been able to do this tournament. I'm going to remember Jared Butler for the season that he had, the regular season, first team All-American. I'm going to remember Maceo Teague for being the face of like what a good transfer in college, because he was just too good to be at UNC Asheville when he was there. Like I watched him play at UNC Asheville. I'm like, where's this kid going to go? He's going to go to Baylor and be great. And you got guys like Vito, and like they all stepped up and they played their role to perfection.
Matthew Meyer with the big 2 points. I predicted he'd score 26, I think is what I said.
But in general, man, I'm just telling you,
this is great. Yeah,
I'm just telling you, this is a Baylor Bear story, and I don't want it to get lost. And I know we have to talk about Gonzaga, and I know we have to kind of like try to figure out what it looks like and try to give them their own funeral of sorts. But at the end of the day, I did not leave thinking about Gonzaga.
I mean,
I left talking about Baylor.
Yeah, that's how I am. Like because Gonzaga, this is not like you said, this is not for Gonzaga. They're climbed the mountaintop and now they've fallen all the way back down the mountain. They've just they went to Summit. They realized the conditions weren't right for the Summit. So they're going
a little too windy up there.
So they're going back down a little bit and they're like, yeah, we'll try to Summit next year. Like they're still very much up near the top of the mountain, and they will be next year, and they will be for the foreseeable future. But
Scott Drew's on top of that mountain, like just praying right now, and he's just, and all you hear is God's plan behind him. I mean, seriously, like this is and
he prayed for Gonzaga every game this year except this game. He's Gonzaga's Sister Jean, and then he cursed him. Say
it for the people in the back, Titus. Let them know, because Sister Jean is probably real upset right now. She's like, I thought it was me, but it's really been Scott Drew the whole time.
Scott Drew pulled those strings on all of this.
Dude, I mean, God's plan. And then also to make it more on God's plan, they are the second team to win a national title with no McDonald's All-Americans on the roster. So let's say that again.
Maryland?
Yeah. So
Maryland is the other one.
Yeah. So there you go.
And he does it in Indianapolis. Remember when I was man, if IU and Carolina just don't hire their coaches, we could have been looking at Mark for you going to Carolina sketch. Remember when I said that? Like I threw out that that was like months ago, wasn't it? That Gonzaga's undefeated and Baylor beats them in Indianapolis, and all the IU people are like, man, you take the job. You preserve the 76 Hoosiers legacy. That was amazing.
Well, that's going to say we had someone, a friend of the program, reach out to us, and apparently, I mean, I remember talking about this, but we talk a lot, Mark Titus, on the air, so sometimes you get lost.
We talk a lot off the air
too. We talk a lot, so like we don't even know half the time what we're saying. So, or we forget what we have said, or we try to piece it back together. But someone reminded us that we pointed out Scott Drew had to preserve the Hoosier legacy in Indiana, and he did it. So congratulations, Scott.
By the way, we talk so much, which is why, like, if something happens, and I don't remember if I said it was going to happen or not, I just say, as I called it.
As I called, yeah. As I said, as predicted on this show.
As expected, Baylor blew out Gonzaga, as I said on the show many times heading into this game. Yeah, Baylor lost to basically COVID and Cade. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Is those were their two losses.
Dude, historic are very formidable. Team.
Both of those are very formidable opponents. They are a historic team, but as you said, Gonzaga is too. I mean, I think,
I'm not here to dismiss everything that Gonzaga did because they lost this game. That's all I'm saying. And I know a lot of people, they feel like that's what you have to do.
Yeah, and you want to pretend like we're not going to remember Gonzaga now because it doesn't matter if you don't win the title, which is true. Like it doesn't make it a success, but we're still going to remember them because, I mean, for God's sakes, we talk about almost champions all the time. That's an argument almost as nauseating as who are blue bloods is who's the best team to never win it. We know who the best teams to win it are, but what about the best team to never win it? And then people start fighting over that because we remember a lot of these teams. I maybe played on one, to be honest with you. Like that team is brought up a lot. Like
absolutely.
And I mean, you ask Ohio State,
Memphis, Derrick Rose the next year. I mean, you could go every single year. There's a team.
People remember runner-ups a lot.
Gordon Hayward, Butler. The list goes on.
It's like, by the way, the Gordon Hayward shot, I remember it doesn't go in, and for that whole week after, people were like, man, if that would have gone in, we would see that shot all the time. Like that shot would be shown. I was like, here we are 11 years later, we still see it all the time. So to that point, Gonzaga is still a historic team. They are still a team that I will remember forever, but I think I'll do so with the context that as good as that team was, there was another team even better, and that just speaks to how great Baylor was tonight. And I don't know. It's hard to really figure out what else to talk about, dude, because it's like we got a definitive answer. I mean, I think in some ways it's a bummer that the game wasn't better because it was so anticipated and this is what we've been waiting for all season. But in other ways, it's like, I don't know, man. The better team won. I don't think there's any
There's no question
discrepancies.
about it.
There's
Yeah.
no like what would happen if this was a 7-game series. I don't think Baylor sweeps them by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think you can watch what you watch tonight and argue that Gonzaga is winning a 7-game series, you know?
Mhm.
I mean you could, but I would laugh at you.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
uh
would 100% laugh at you at this
so
point.
there's
Yes.
no for guys like you and I who love the madness of March, but also wish there was a way to make sure the best team still wins because like as cool as the randomness is, like man, it would suck if like the randomness can lead to an unworthy, undeserving team winning the title. We
Mhm.
got the best of both worlds with this tournament. We got the Mickey Mouse all the way up until tonight. We got all the randomness and the junk happening and upsets galore. And then in the end, when all the dust settled, the two best teams in the country played. The two best teams, maybe of the last 2 years, however many years you want to put it. Like these are all-time teams. I don't know how many I'm not saying top 10 all-time, but I'm saying these are all-time teams. If I'm making a college basketball time capsule for when the earth gets swallowed by the sun and we're shooting it out into space, these are the teams you need to remember. I'm putting both of these
Mhm.
teams in my time capsule. And I'm saying, here you go,
Yeah.
aliens. Learn about these
Yeah.
teams.
So you're saying
And
it's officially one tier. That's what we're
it's
on.
one
Yeah,
tier.
one tier
And
that you ship off. Yeah.
yeah, and those were the two teams that played, and the better team won, and like that's a perfect storybook ending in some ways, even though it ended up being a game that was like over 5 minutes in.
Yeah, and
So
and let's just be quite honest. I mean, Saturday night is one of those games where it'll be remembered and people will forget that that was the national semifinal. Kind of
yeah,
sometimes people Wisconsin and Kentucky in 2015 they get lost and they're like, oh, I thought, oh yeah, that's right. And then Wisconsin lost to Duke. I mean that Jalen Sugshot we'll see a million different times over. But the reason why it seems so impactful because we talked about this on our last show. It felt very Team of Destiny vibes. It felt like they were supposed to do this at this point, but in reality, that's not how it works. Like we were just talking about,
yeah.
like going up the rungs of the ladder. It's not just going to happen because it's quote unquote supposed to happen.
I don't
I
think
don't know
like
if Loki's going back in time and twisting time and making things happen, out of sorts. But Baylor, I mean, they deserve
I don't think
this. There's just no doubt about it.
I don't think there is any formula for like I think I'm certainly guilty of this as much as anybody, but I think you try to find patterns to explain the madness. Like we
Yeah,
watch
of
March
course.
Madness every year and we try to like understand how and why this did happen or this will happen. And the best way to do that is to look at past madnesses and say, like, here are some patterns we see. So here's how this will probably go. And
Mhm.
I don't think those patterns really exist, Like I think people are now going to there is going to now be a narrative about Gonzaga that they can't win the big one because there's been a narrative about Gonzaga for that forever. And the big one has always moved from they can't win in the Sweet 16 to they can't ever make a Final Four to now they can't. And that's always going to happen. But the same thing was being said about Baylor, for God's sakes. That was being said about Scott Drew, and he just won a national title in his first trip to the Final Four. It was said 2 years ago about Tony Bennett after he loses to a 16 seed that Tony Bennett will never, ever, people are using the clapping emojis on Twitter.
Mhm.
He will never, ever,
Mhm.
ever
Mhm.
get over it. Win a title, and then the very next year he wins a national title. So, my point, like I want to encourage people, and I'm saying this out loud so I hear it myself and I do it to
That's how it
stop,
works. Yeah.
like not draw too many conclusions or like not try to because I'm sure there are people that are like, well, I'm never, like Gonzaga next year will be great. And we'll hear it again and be like, Gonzaga can't win a title. And that's fine. Like, I don't, even this year when I was going to bat for Gonzaga, I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm not telling you pick him to win a title. Pick Baylor's a worthy. Michigan was good enough to win a title this year. I could have,
Yep.
if Michigan would have won, I wouldn't have been shocked. I was just saying like this Gonzaga team is clearly better than any Gonzaga team that we've ever seen. And I still think that's true. I still think this is the best Gonzaga team of all time. Pretty clearly the best team of all time that Gonzaga's ever had. They just didn't have it tonight. And that's that. So I guess like moving forward, I don't think we should move forward with the assumption that Mark Few will never win a title because we said that about, as you pointed out, that was Dean Smith's thing. Dean Smith loses 2 title games, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Dean Smith did it in a very similar time frame too. I mean, 77 with Phil Ford. That was supposed to be the year that Dean Smith finally does it with the best point guard that North Carolina has ever seen. A guy who controls 4 corners, a guy who can basically freeze out a game and choke out a game. They lose to Marquette. And that was a shock to the system, very similar to, Mark Few losing in, say, 2017. 4 years later, Dean Smith goes to the title game. Unfortunately, the president, Ronald Reagan, is shot. America says we should not play a title game. Bob Knight says we should.
That was their version of COVID.
Yeah, Dean Smith was not prepared to play that game. I was very confused as to why they did. And then North Carolina loses. And then the next year, 1982, a kid by the name of Mike Jordan decides to go to North Carolina and takes a big shot, hits the big shot. And Dean Smith gets over the hump. And America immediately changes course and says Dean Smith is now officially one of the best coaches in basketball.
If you want patterns, there's your pattern. Maybe that's the Mark Few pattern, or maybe it's not. Maybe he will go to like 7 title games and never win, and that'll be his legacy. The point is, we don't know, and I don't know. That's what makes it fun. If we knew, it wouldn't be as fun. So
and it's the whole point to say is like it is a grind, it is a climb, and just to say that it happened is amazing. Just to win one title is obviously incredible. And Scott Drew right now, I mean, he's on cloud 9, even though he promised in his press conference he was going to a national title. I mean, that's more talk. We know what that is. I mean, that is what else are you going to say? I'm coming here to hopefully win 20 games a year.
I want to finish in the top half of the Big 12 once.
Exactly. So like, that's just not what it is. And, I know Mark Few will be back. I know Mark Few is a really, really good basketball coach. I know that Mark Few has a great program going. And I have no doubt that if you're a Gonzaga fan, you'll be back. I think in general, the frustration has to be, and we understand this, is that this team is so good. Like, this team is so deserving of a championship. But on the flip side, so is Baylor. And those teams met in the title game, which we shouldn't be taking this as like wow, this sucks. It should be like, man, 2 perennially great teams that we're going to remember for decades played each other. And then we learned that one of them, when push came to shove, Baylor was not going to lose this game, no matter what. Like, they would literally fight these guys in the parking lot afterwards. You said that's what it would turn into. They would play them in poker if they had to win a title that way. They would do anything to win this game. Vital would do anything to win this game. Mitchell would do anything to win this game. And I will say this. That's not to say that Gonzaga didn't want to win. I'm just saying the way that they played, it would take a whole lot. And look, Drew Timme has annoyed me to no end, this entire season. As you know, Titus, I've joked with you about it. And I'm like, I'm ready for someone to flex on this guy and get back at him and see what he has. I think that Drew Timme's got to come back in a very Christian Laettner type way. I think he's got to come back. This is the running Rebels, right? This is UNLV, stomping Duke.
1990. Yeah.
Yes. And then they come back the next year and they show who they are.
And I think there's your pattern. There's a pattern for you.
There's a pattern for you. If you're a Gonzaga fan, you can see that. And I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. But regardless, I wanted Timme tonight to feel that. I think he did feel it. I think Baylor showed him what it was like to have that physicality up in your face. And I think that Drew Timme will be a better player for it. I don't know if Corey Kispert will come back. I don't know if Jalen Suggs will come back. I assume that he won't. But they're going to get top flight players. No. Yeah. I mean, yes, of course. But I'm saying that I'm just saying that to say that. But like, they're gone. And so, but they got 5 stars coming in. The program is at a top flight level. So you're going to be here because you have an amazing coach and you have an amazing program. And it's going to be okay. But also, don't let that detract from the fact that Baylor is also now at that top flight level. Like, Baylor is now. Yeah.
Yes.
Remember when, Baylor was getting Perry Ellis and these guys, Perry Jones, and everyone's like, this isn't supposed to happen to Baylor. Well, now when you see a 5-star commit to Baylor, it's going to make sense. And that's scary because Baylor has a lot to offer to a lot of these kids that are 5-star top flight players. I told you one time John Wall was going to Baylor and you looked at me like he had 3 heads, but like,
I didn't disagree. I was just like,
no. You're like, I didn't know that was common knowledge, but that was kind of what the talk was at one time. And I'm telling you, that Baylor now will be able to have a top 5 pick go to their team, like a Jalen Suggs.
So you're saying Scott Drew's going to come full circle and start getting 5 stars and losing in the Elite 8 again, and then we're going to be like right Jay back Wright where we were.
That's what Jay Wright did, and then Jay Wright was like, "I don't need 5 stars; I need 4+ guys." You know what I mean? That's more of my mold. And Scott Drew will find his mold. This is the perfect Scott Drew team. I am very, very excited about what Baylor basketball will look like now that they have a seat at the table, right? They have a legitimate seat at the table.
New blood.
Not a blue blood, but I think a new blood. Drew blood. There you go.
Drew blood. I think you made a great point that I had this thought throughout the game that I didn't even share with you. So the fact that you said something similar just means we're just kindred spirits and we're sharing one brain. We spend so much time together. That Baylor would have won this game no matter what sport it was. That you said if they were playing poker, if that's like the vibe I got. Like if at halftime they came out and they're like, all right, guys, we're playing hockey instead the second half. Baylor's like, cool,
we're playing pickleball. If they're playing pickleball, like...
yeah, they're like, every single Baylor guy would be like, cool, we're going to beat their ass. I don't even know how to play. We're going to beat their ass.
Yeah.
I don't care. Whatever.
They're looking at coach. They're like, is this cool? Are these the rules? Because I want to rip this net out.
Yeah.
Like, can I touch it?
And you also, by the way, the silver lining for Gonzaga is, as you mentioned, is I think Drew Timme, his draft stock is hurting after this game. Like in all seriousness, like you said, bring him back because of the Christian Laettner parallels. I'm saying if the guy has to figure out how to guard ball screens, and so like his NBA stock is. I don't know. I like Drew Timme. I love watching him play, and I enjoy all the antics, the mustache, and the flexing. And I think he was, in a lot of ways, the difference for Gonzaga. Certainly he was the best player for Gonzaga this entire tournament run.
For sure, he was the most outstanding player. If he played like he had been playing, he just didn't tonight because Baylor got up in him. You know,
as awesome as Suggs has been all year, and Kispert has been all year, and I has been all year. You can make an argument that Timme was like what made them good, because when they don't have Timme, then like they're a different kind of team than when they had him and whatever else. So like there was all that leading into this game, and then my God, you got to call what it was, which is he couldn't play defense in this game. He was bad defensively, and if I'm a Gonzaga fan, I'm like, that sucks, but maybe he comes back. Pair him with Chet Holmgren, put him at the 4 with Chet. I guess Chet doesn't play the 5, does he? Put Chet at stretch 5.
Yeah.
Put Timme at the 5. Let Chet play the stretch 4. Let Walker Kessler play the stretch 3.
Hey, I'm hearing good things about Walker Kessler right now, by the way.
Coming back to Carolina.
I'm not going to win.
So, yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else we got to hit about this game? I mean, like it was kind of a dud of a national title game, but it's as I said, the story is still there. Like the story is Baylor.
Yeah.
And what a story it is, man.
The story is really simple. The 1976 Hoosiers, the legacy is protected by Homer Drew's son in Indianapolis. And the one thing we've learned about Indy, if you're an undefeated team and you come to Indy, you're going to lose. So just go ahead just go ahead and know that. In fact, if you are undefeated and the tournament's about to start in Indy, I think you call Xavier, you play that game that they want to play. You lose game on purpose. You get Xavier in the tournament.
Let's talk about that quickly, because I don't want to do I don't want to insinuate that Gonzaga would have won or anything like that. So I want to get that out immediately. That's not what I'm doing.
Baylor is the best team in the country.
Yeah, yes, we got that out of the way. I want to talk about the psychology of this, of how much do you think that played into it, of Baylor, because Baylor was in a unique position of being both an all-time great team
and an underdog.
Mm-hmm. And that's a dangerous combination.
With nothing to lose.
Do you that surely had to play a part in it, that if Gonzaga, I mean, like we joke about it, we comment about it. I don't know if it's a joke, whatever, that like sometimes losing a game is not the worst thing, because you get that whole like other monkey that you're dealing with off your back of like, we got to keep the perfect season, get that out of the way. Now we're just focused on winning the national title. And I don't think Gonzaga was winning that game, but my point is, if that game happens in the regular season, I don't necessarily think Baylor is running them off the floor per se. I think like the Suggs foul trouble with the psychology of it all, as you said, like beating UCLA on a buzzer beater and being the favorites, and Baylor being in the position of being an underdog. Cause like if that game happens in December, we don't really know who's like, at that point, like Gonzaga was number 1, obviously, but like we're still sussing it all out and everything. And I mean, I don't know.
If they play in December, yeah, you're right. There could be a totally different thing. And I think, that was the best part of tonight, was the intrigue. Before the game tipped, like 2 minutes before, I kind of looked at you and I said, I don't know what I'm going to see tonight, Yeah. And I meant that so pure and genuinely, because I knew that
I didn't think I was going to see that. I'll be honest.
I
saw that as an unlikely outcome.
Yeah,
but
I saw that as like, basically the one thing we had talked about was, I saw in my head a moment where Davion Mitchell is clapping in Jalen Suggs' face because Jalen Suggs just dribbled a ball off his foot. That was one thing that we said, and we knew that he was going to get. We were going to get in his face. And I didn't know if that was going to be something that like was just trying to like a false confidence type thing, and then Gonzaga keeps cutting and cuts them to death and wins. But in general, that's kind of what it was. I mean, Baylor imposed their will. Baylor made sure that they felt them the entire game. Baylor made sure that they knew that they were a more vertical team. They knew that there were going to be no easy buckets. And I'm telling you, man, when you're driving and you're kicking and Davion Mitchell beats the ball to the shooter. Like he's that quick. Like he was beating the ball because he was anticipating the pass and then jumping it. Sometimes he was jumping the passing lane, getting steals. He is an all-time perimeter defender. And they're playing man. They're playing like basically a matchup man. And he can like kind of, move around at his own, accord at the top of that zone. And they did not have an answer for it. And Gonzaga tried
to be upset.
darndest.
Speaking of Davion Mitchell, you want to be upset? I got upsetting news. Jared Butler was most outstanding player.
I mean, 22-7. I mean, I understand it, but I mean, I'm just going to say for the tournament, Davion Mitchell was the most outstanding player for Baylor. Yeah. I mean, that's no knock to Jared Butler at all. He's a first team All-American. I understand he's going to get that nod. He had the better game tonight from a statistical standpoint.
I can't wait, by the way, just to get to the point of sport. We can get sports talk back to where we don't have to say this is no knock to this guy.
I know.
I hate that that's where we arrived. That like anytime you're complimenting one thing anytime you're like Baylor's really good, it doesn't mean that Gonzaga sucks. Or anytime you're saying, I think Davion Mitchell should have won the MOP. Like obviously Jared Butler was awesome and deserves a lot of stuff. It was just Davion Mitchell was better to me. I don't know.
Yeah, so we'll give here's the all tournament team. We got it now. Shout out to our team at Fox for sending that over. Johnny Juzang. Shout out to Johnny Juzang, man. He was awesome. Davion
should have been MOP.
Yeah, I know, right? Jalen Suggs. Drew Timme, who definitely deserved it. As much as I'm talking about Timme tonight, Timme has been incredible. I don't want that to get lost. I just think tonight, he kind of learned a lesson, I think. Jared Butler, like you said, is the MOP. So that's your all tournament 5
Do you
there.
think
it's a very strong 5.
Here's a what if for you. What will happen first? A team goes undefeated and runs the table and wins a national title from a power conference, we'll say a power conference. Because I think Gonzaga will always be a threat to do this. But it gets harder when you start talking about power conference teams that have to go play at powerhouses like Northwestern and Nebraska, like from the Big Ten. That makes it a little harder. So do you think a team will go undefeated and finish the season first, or a guy will be named most outstanding player that didn't win the national title? What will happen again? I think that one's over. I think that I don't think we'll ever see that again. A most outstanding player that lost. I feel like it has just become full default, like who led the team in scoring in the title game or the Final Four weekend. Like you win it. Here you go.
Yeah, I mean, it would take some Herculean effort, I think, to be able to get enough cachet. But honestly, Johnny Juzang was enough of a cult
Johnny
hero.
Juzang could have. I mean, if they beat Gonzaga and then Juzang goes off tonight, there's a chance.
Like, if Johnny Juzang had 40, but they lost by 20, like there's a chance that America's like, man, even though Baylor won, they're the better team, but Johnny's the best player.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, looking forward to next year. As we kind of get ahead of things, I understand.
Oh, we got to wait too early. Tate's top.
No.
Tate's top 10.
I just want to say, like, I want to make the pitch that in general, and I know this won't happen because of the NBA and their false promises that they make to these kids, even though they don't care about them. I would love to see a guy like Johnny Juzang. Like, I know he's not going to come back, but I would love the idea of Johnny coming back to like make a run as like the best team in the country. You know what I mean? Like you come back, you're preseason number 1. You got Peyton Watson, our 5-star coming in there to the program. Chris Smith, announces in, midsummer that he's going to also come back. He's also going to come back to UCLA. And, Cody Riley, like the whole squad's back. Tiger Campbell's ready to be. Tiger Campbell, by the way, is a great college point guard and a guy who gets the position. So like, that whole team being preseason number 1 on the rise would be amazing. I have such a soft spot for Johnny Juzang. And also, I will say, just talking about guys coming back, if Drew Timme comes back for Gonzaga and is like, I took that personally, I am here a man on a mission, I will be all in. I will be pulling for Drew Timme to come back and make some noise because the reason I had my frustrations with Drew Timme is like, look, man, I don't need you to flex. Like, don't be a front runner. Like, and tonight
they're down. True. They're
They're down 15-9, and he flexed Mark Titus, and thank God, or no, he stroked his mustache, and then thank God Maceo T got him on the other side and hit him with the flex back, because I mean that's what he deserved, and I think he knows that. I think he'll learn from it, and I hope that he comes back and he's better for it. And looking forward to next season. We got some good college basketball, man. I mean,
college basketball's back, by the way. Suck it, haters. Message to the haters. Kissed our ass. College basketball is back. This was an amazing, for given the circumstances of this season. This was coming into this season. I said this is going to be the dumbest college basketball season of all time, and in a lot of ways, it was. It was a Mickey Mouse tournament. We know that.
We know that.
We covered it extensively. We've covered it extensively on this program. It was dumb. It was games were canceled, games were moved. It made no sense. Teams were awarded conference championships having won fewer games than other teams in conferences, and you're just like, what the hell is going on here? And the rationale behind it was always just get us to the March. Just get us to March. Just get us to the NCAA tournament, to the March. This is the March, as they say. And we'll be fine, and it'll all be worth it, because we didn't get a tournament last year, and all we really want is just get us to a tournament. And it was frustrating at times throughout the season, Tate. It was weird having long stretches of Villanova. That one stands out to me. Villanova didn't play for like 3 weeks. And I was like, how was the number?
Michigan had the entire program. I mean, like the entire athletic department shut down.
And then we're making fun of all the guys that, Jalen Johnson opts out. And that's like a bizarre thing that would never happen, but also feels like it's probably going to happen more and more as we move forward in college basketball this year. And just all the weird decisions of Michigan comes back from pause and they don't want to play Illinois. And on the one hand, you're like, I want to kill these guys for dodging Illinois. On the other hand, you're like, but at the same time, like, I mean, given the circumstances, I guess you can't really. So I guess they have a point. And that whole like hazy thing, and it sucked and it was weird. And all we were thinking about was March Madness is going to be so awesome. And then it was, and it delivered. And all the haters are they're silent tonight, Tate. They're silent.
They're in shambles. They're in shambles right now. Yeah.
College basketball is back. We are back. This was, I have to say this for everyone watching as we're doing this live stream, wrapping this up here, and everyone listening. We're putting this on the podcast feed tomorrow. This was the most fun season of my life by far. And it shouldn't have been. It should have been stupid, because it was stupid. But it was fun in part because of what the show became, and everyone that watched with us and followed along and all that stuff. And I just wanted to say shout out to all of you who have been with us through all of this, because that we're fighting a war for some strange reason. I don't understand how we got here. I want to pull my hair out sometimes.
It's a culture war of sorts. Yes.
It's a culture war where, like, if you look at the sport of football, the people who cover the NFL love college football, and they'll like give you talk to them about like college football players, and they all have thoughts, because they're like, yeah, I was watching every Saturday this guy and Justin Fields. I think Zach Wilson's they're talking about the draft, and they have all these thoughts on all these guys because they
watch them play, actually,
because they love football, Tate, and they don't think like these guys aren't as good as I'm not gonna. It is polar opposite with the NBA and college basketball. The NBA has gotten their orders from Adam Silver, the NBA media, to just crap all over college basketball at every turn. Make sure everyone thinks you're, I mean, you have people literally making the argument that you're racist if you watch college basketball, if you like it over the NBA. This is what we deal with. And I don't mean to say that you and I are victims. I'm saying like the sport, like this is like, it's frustrating as hell that like you and I just love basketball, and we just want to talk about basketball. And throughout the regular season, my whole point is like, there is like some sort of narrative about like regular season college basketball does not matter. It very much does. And I want to just thank everybody who followed us the entire, and if you're new, and if you're just like wanted to watch along with us during,
we still love you too.
We still love you too. The point is like this whole season was so fun, and it's because we the people that listen to the show and watch the show and all that, they make it fun for us. So I just wanted to say that, because yeah, we're not supposed to have fun. If you listen to the outside world, they say college basketball is not fun in January and December and February. You have to wait till March. That's not true. I had fun all year. This is the most fun I've ever had.
It's fun all year. And I remember, last year in 2020, the tournament was canceled, as we all know. And I was sick, and I couldn't even do a show.
Yeah.
And, Fox asked you to do a solo show where you break down
in my kitchen.
Yeah, in your kitchen.
I recorded on my cell phone because I had no other I had no recording equipment. I couldn't meet anybody to get recording equipment, because we thought if you just can't be within any the vicinity of anybody. So I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll just open my memo app on my
my voice
memos.
memo app and talking to my phone and try to
Yeah.
give my thoughts. And the fact that, like, that was a year ago. And I know it feels like 10 years, from that point in time to where we are now, as we've dealt with so much and the world has dealt with so much and people have dealt with so much. But just the fact that, we've gotten from here to the two best teams in the country playing in a title game in Indianapolis. You and I are in Indianapolis. We are, able to have some, ability to be around things at some level and, be able to have these guys, have a full season to crown a champion. It is one, it's kudos to just the fact that we were able to make this happen as human beings, man. The human mind and the human, ability to do things is unmatched. And the fact that, look, the friends of the program that have stuck with us, like you said, over the years. I mean, we've had 3 different podcast names.
Yeah.
We had basically, I had what, let's just be quite honest of it, 1 out of 5 days to care about this show when I worked at my old operation, because I had 15 other shows to care about. I was basically trying to my best to stay engaged with college basketball while the people who were supposed to help
and
me
it showed, if we're being honest, like it showed. Like you didn't know anything. You really didn't. I think everyone who's been around for the whole run of this thing would know that. They would be like, yeah, Tate was an idiot. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, the fact that we've gone that far from, like, it wasn't even something that I could make a priority, to the fact that, like, you and I have a show on a major network with people who are working so hard with us. Shout out to our producer, Louise, who's sitting in my hotel room over here, like talking to our director, like making things happen. I mean, the fact that we have so many great people around us that are working with us, that are working to make great content about the game that you and I love. And there's so many great programs in college basketball. There's so many great people in college basketball. There's so many amazing stories in college basketball. Jason Preston, for one, just comes to mind as I say stories. And the list goes on and on. There's 15 different stories in this game tonight that are amazing. Jalen Suggs' story is amazing. Davion Mitchell's story is amazing. Maceo Teague's story is amazing. Drew Timmy's story is amazing. Like, the fact that all of these characters all come together and we have such a love for them, and we know that there are so many people that do have an affinity and a love for them as well, and we can all have a space together to talk about it. We don't view this as us talking at you. I know it may sound like that at times. And for that, we apologize. We want this show to be for you, the people, and for us to have a place where we find our community.
Yeah, it is. Because if it wasn't for the people that watch us and listen to us, we wouldn't have any of these things. Yeah. You know, like it would all go away if we didn't have the number. If we didn't have the if we didn't do numbers, as they say. If we didn't have the algorithm blessing us.
Yes, thank you, algorithm.
Then we wouldn't. Fox would be like, kick rocks, dude. Go.
I mean, look, if we didn't have that, then I would be calling Scott Drew to pray for us. You know, at this point, I'm like, please, Scott Drew.
So I wanted to say that it really this gets more fun every year, and it really is because of the friends of the program. You guys make it so much fun, and I don't know. That's enough. That's too sentimental for us. Wrap it up. Just say, I'll give you 5 minutes on Hubert Davis. Go.
Yeah. I'll throw this out. Look, Hubert Davis, I'll be quite honest with you. When I first was told that Roy Williams was retiring, I had basically a panic attack, and was, as we know, if you listen to the podcast where I talked about it, I had an emotional attack of sorts where
did you cry? Did you cry on the podcast?
I tried not. No, I didn't cry on the pod. I think I got choked up. I don't think I cried. I mean, who knows at this point? Probably.
What constitutes crying? Does it have to fall out of your eyeball for it to be?
I mean, look, I don't play baseball anymore, so I can cry all I want to. But at the end of the day, I had heard that Hubert was going to be the guy. I was a little, I wouldn't say I was jumping with joy at the thought, because I had seen Hubert for 9 years. I had seen him kind of be silently in the background. And, I'd always had this feeling like, what is Hubert Davis going to look like as the head coach? And then today I turned on College Game Day after he's announced. First of all, I got a great phone call today, basically telling me why Hubert's going to be the guy. And, 2 names, Pat Riley, Michael Jordan, kind of sold me on that. So I felt pretty good. And obviously played for Pat Riley, played with Michael Jordan on the Wizards. Also, him and Mike Jordan have go way back due to his uncle Walter Davis, who was a guy who mentored Michael when he got to the NBA. If you don't know how great Walter Davis was, by the way, if you're listening, just go look it up. He's one of the greatest rookie of the year of all time for the Phoenix Suns. Jerry Colangelo made him his top priority to get him to the Suns when he went there. Anyways, Hubert Davis is a legendary figure in basketball. He's played for Donnie Nelson. He's played for so many legends and he's tied to so many different people. But I watched him on College Game Day. And there's a lot of times when you're doing your first TV appearance where you're trying to do the sales pitch, tell you why you want the job. It was not scripted. It was not written. It was purely Carolina basketball from his core. And he told the story about when he left the NBA in 2004. He could have gone anywhere in the country. He wanted to go to Chapel Hill. He wanted to raise his kids in Chapel Hill. From when he was 4 years old, he knew that he wanted to be a part of Carolina basketball due to his uncle Walter Davis. And he's been around the program. He's seen it all. He can go into any living room in North Carolina and in New York, anywhere in the world, and say, I am the blueprint. I am what it looks like to be successful. And guess what? I'm the first Black head coach at the University of North Carolina. And it's not about that. And I know a lot of people, I've seen people say it's a woke hire or something like that. No, Hubert Davis earned this job. Hubert Davis left College Game Day to sit next to Roy Williams and watch one of the greatest coaches ever and learn. And he learned from Dean Smith, and he played for Dean Smith, who I think is the greatest coach that the game will ever see. And you have those two guys and a Bill Guthridge. That's pretty good company. You throw in Pat Riley, Donnie Nelson, that's really good company. And Hubert Davis being able to fulfill a dream of Dean Smith, a man who integrated the ACC, a man who went to Charlie Scott. He had Rick Mount, who was from Indiana. Titus, you and Coach Titus. I talk to Coach Titus about Rick Mount all the time for some reason. And Rick Mount, Larry Brown went up to go see Rick Mount in Indiana. He calls Coach Smith and he says, Coach, I saw the guy, Rick Mount. I know he's the best player in the country. I know he's on Sports Illustrated, but I know a kid, Charlie Scott, in North Carolina that's better than he is. And, the ACC at that time said there will be no black players. Charlie Scott was a black kid. He also was one of the smartest kids. I think he was the valedictorian of his high school, if not, top of his class up there. Checks all the boxes. Dean Smith gets him into the ACC. A lot of people were very upset about this at the time, as you can imagine, in 1967, 1968. And Dean Smith did it despite all that. And Dean Smith got a lot of flack for that. But his ultimate dream at the end of the day was for his successor or for someone at the University of North Carolina to break that color gap, to be able to bring a coach in. And he wanted to be Phil Ford. It did not work out with Phil Ford. But the fact that Roy Williams was able to leave and have that happen, and it happened, and it wasn't a forced situation. It didn't seem like, it was designed to be that way. It just was perfect. And Hubert is perfect for the job. He is a Carolina basketball guy through and through. I couldn't be more excited for the future, and I can't wait to see what happens.
And most importantly, he's going to have ESPN in the palm of his hand, as judged by his College Game Day appearance, where he's like, hey guys, Duke stinks, am I right? And then they go,
yeah. I mean, calling out Coach K at the end of his Game Day appearance really sold me at the end of the day.
Go, if you're so inclined, go watch Hubert Davis on College Game Day and watch the entire room. Just like they thought they were watching. Killing him softly. Like,
it was Bernie Mac. It was the Kings of Comedy, basically. So, man, I'm very excited to say the least. That's my
good thought. For you, man. Good for you. Thanks. Happy for you. Hey, everyone watching, listening, all that. We are not done. We appreciate you joining us throughout this entire in-state tournament run, throughout the regular season, however long you've been listening, whether it's been years or just this is your first time. Which, if that's the case, yikes. Welcome though. A week from now, we are doing the Duffys, Tate. We're bringing the Duffys back. People, a lot of the media out there, they've been talking about what was lost in college basketball last year. Haven't heard a single person mention the Duffys. So I just wanted to point that out, that we lost the Duffys last year. Mm-hmm. There was no Duffys. There was no 2020 Duffys. The Duffys are coming back in 2021. If you're new to the program and you don't know what that means, that is our award show where we hand out prestigious awards such as Bagman of the Year, such as Excellence
Headline of the Year.
Headline of the Year, Colt Hero. What else do we do? I don't know. Well,
good guy of the year, of course.
Good guy of the year, bad guy. Yeah,
so many.
We'll have Kyle.
Yeah, we'll have Kyle's guy as well. Kyle will make an appearance. He'll pick his guy of the year. We'll see how little he's watched college basketball. That should be fun. So, I mean, it's going to be.
It's my favorite show we do every year. It is my favorite show we do every year.
You said, Titus, we want to have fun on our show. That is the show that if you don't really even like basketball, you can come have fun with us because we love it. And we're going to be in tuxedos. We're going to be on a studio set. I mean, this is going to be the biggest Duffys of all time.
So of all time. We're going to be half in the tank, I'm sure, as well. And It is a rip roaring time, and it's just a nice way to cap off the whole season and summarize everything that happened and all the stuff that you probably forgot happened. We probably forgot happened. We got to get to work, research, and remind ourselves in the next week. So we're doing that next Monday. That'll be.
Are we gonna sing One Shining Duffel? That's what the people are asking if we're gonna bring the song back. Wild Bags just DM'd me. He said, please bring back One Shining Duffel. I was like, we'll think about it. Shout out Wild Bags.
Shining Duffel.
Yeah, and if you don't know, we made a song our first year, and then we listened back to it.
Duffel?
I think so. All I know is we listened back to it and we're like, wow, it sounded a lot better when we did it live.
Sincerely from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening all season. We truly do not take you for granted, and we love that you join us on this wild ride. Congratulations to Baylor. The Baylor Bears are your national champions. Congratulations to Scott Drew. Go celebrate, Baylor fans. You deserve it. And I don't think we've seen the last of Baylor, Tate. They're going to be back. Gonzaga's going to be back.
They got a seat at the table.
And God willing, the Buckeyes and Tar Heels will be back because, this was not our year. But next year it might be.
Next year. Also, shout out to Indiana. Mike Woods and Cam Recruit. Thanks, everybody.